In a sweltering tent in Kandahar, surrounded by the grit of war, Ryan Mitchell, 42, receives an envelope from a teammate, the man's face shadowed with unease. Inside is a handwritten letter from his wife, Jessica Reed, its words slicing through their 13-year marriage with brutal finality. She's drained their joint account, moved her new boyfriend into their Spokane home, and demands a divorce, as if their shared life was a mere footnote. Ryan reads the letter under the watchful eyes of his squad, the bass's clamor fading to a distant hum. He doesn't scream or tear the paper apart. He folds it with deliberate care, tucks it into his pocket, and steps into the scorching desert, where the wind howls his unspoken rage. Deep within, a piece of him shatters, not for losing Jessica, but for the trust he poured into her, now scattered like sand. This isn't just a tale of betrayal. It's the story of a soldier who wages war without a weapon, turning anguish into strategy. He prepared for this day, though he prayed it would never come. When your world collapses in a letter delivered to a war zone, exposing your pain to comrades, what do? Do you crumble under the weight, or do you forge your hurt into a blade sharper and truer than any steel? Ryan Mitchell, a staff sergeant with the 82nd Airborne, is a 42-year-old man carved by war and duty. His lean frame, weathered by years in the field, moves with precision, his piercing eyes scanning for threats, his voice low but commanding. He lives by a soldier's code: speak sparingly, act decisively, and hold fast what's right. After 20 years in the Army, it's not merely a career, it's his sanctuary, where purpose is forged in the crucible of service, where chaos yields to order. Raised in a working-class Spokane neighborhood, Ryan grew up under the steady gaze of his father, a car mechanic whose hands were always stained with grease. Think before you speak, be certain before you act, his father would say. Words Ryan carried like a talisman. His mother, a woman of quiet strength, battled lung cancer with grace, never smoking yet succumbing to the disease. When his father died of a heart attack shoveling snow, and his mother followed years later, Ryan inherited a modest sum and a legacy of resilience. Their deaths left him with a fierce resolve to honor their sacrifices, to build something enduring. He met Jessica Reed at a friend's barbecue in 2010, a summer evening thick with the scent of grilled meat and laughter. Her blonde hair caught the sunlight, her smile radiant, her ambition as a nursing student hinting at a shared future. But she later chose a quieter path as a dental office receptionist, citing the stress of medical training. They married after 8 months, a whirlwind of passion and hope, their wedding small but filled with promise. Ryan bought a modest 3-bedroom house with a VA loan, registered in his name alone, but added Jessica to the deed, believing love meant sharing all he had. The early years glowed with warmth. They'd cook together in their small kitchen, Jessica humming off-key, Ryan teasing her gently. But 4 deployments, 2 to Iraq, 2 to Afghanistan, cast long shadows. Jessica grew restless, her complaints sharpening. "I'm tired of being alone," she'd say, her voice edged with resentment. "When are you getting a real job?" The Army was Ryan's calling, the one place he felt whole, but he understood her loneliness. He suggested counseling. She brushed it off, insisting they were fine. 6 months before his final deployment, the cracks widened. Jessica changed. Her phone gained new passwords. She joined a gym but returned untouched by sweat. And she spent evenings with friends Ryan never met. Names like Melissa, who'd found herself after divorce. He didn't snoop or confront her. That wasn't his way. But he wasn't blind. Quietly, he prepared. He secured vital documents, birth certificate, marriage license, house deed, in a storage unit across town, hidden from prying eyes. He opened a separate bank account at a different bank, diverting a small portion of his pay, subtle enough to avoid notice, but enough to cushion a potential fall. He also stored his grandfather's pocket watch, engraved with his initials, and his mother's silver candlesticks, heirlooms that carried the weight of family history. Ryan's preparations weren't born of paranoia but instinct, honed by years in war zones where trust could be fatal. He remembered his father's late-night talks about always having a backup plan, lessons from a man who'd rebuilt engines from scraps. Yet as he packed those documents, a part of him ached, hoping he was wrong about Jessica. He wanted to believe in the woman who'd kissed him under Spokane streetlights, who'd promised forever. That hope clung to him, fragile but stubborn. The night before deploying, Jessica hugged him at the airport, her arms loose, her voice soft. "Stay safe, okay?" Her eyes were dry, her farewell hollow, like bidding goodbye to a colleague. Ryan boarded the plane, a gnawing dread settling in his chest. The home he left behind, with its small yard and creaky porch, felt like a castle under siege, its walls no longer his to defend. The blow landed on a blistering Kandahar afternoon, the air thick with dust and the weight of a long patrol. Ryan sat in his tent, the canvas walls stained with sand, cleaning his gear under a flickering bulb that buzzed like a trapped insect. Alvarez, a young teammate with a nervous tic, approached, clutching a plain white envelope. "Mail from the States, Sarge," he said, his voice tight, eyes darting away as if he sensed trouble. Handwritten letters were rare in this digital age, and Ryan's stomach twisted. A premonition of ruin. He took the envelope, his calloused fingers tracing Jessica's looping script on the address. The tense chatter, soldiers joking, radios crackling, faded to a dull roar. His pulse quickened, the air growing heavy, as if the desert itself held its breath. He tore open the envelope, pulling out a single folded sheet, the paper crisp against his rough hands. Jessica's words were stark, merciless. "Ryan, I've decided we should part ways. I've filed for divorce and want this settled quickly. I hope you'll act like an adult." Jessica, attached was a copy of the divorce petition, her signature a bold slash across the page, and a small handwritten note. "I've moved your things to storage. Tyler's staying at the house with me." Each sentence was a dagger, piercing deeper than any wound Ryan had taken in battle. Jessica didn't just want out. She'd drained $47,000 from their joint account, leaving a pitiful $212.37. She'd welcomed Tyler Grant, a man Ryan had never met, into their Spokane home, purchased with his VA loan, where they'd once dreamed of children and quiet years. Worst of all, she'd sent this letter through military channels, ensuring it reached him in the heart of the base, in front of his team, stripping away the privacy of his pain, in a place where solitude was already a luxury. Inside Ryan's mind, a maelstrom erupted, raw and unrelenting. The pain was visceral, a tidal wave threatening to drown him. He saw Jessica's face in their kitchen, her laughter during late-night talks, her hand steadying him when his mother passed. When did she become this stranger? Had he been blind, too consumed by duty to see her drift? A voice within, the soldier who'd faced ambushes, who'd carried wounded men through gunfire, cut through the chaos. "Don't break. She wants you humiliated, exposed before your brothers. But you're built for this. You'll outlast her." He gripped the letter, his training clamping down on the storm, forging it into something harder, colder, a resolve as unyielding as the desert sun. He folded the letter with deliberate care, slipped it into his chest pocket, the paper's edge pressing against his heart. Alvarez, still lingering, shifted uneasily. "You good, Sarge?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Fine," Ryan replied, his tone flat, eyes sharp as flint, betraying nothing of the war within. He stood, stepped outside, the desert heat slamming into him like a physical blow, the sand stinging his face as the wind howled. Under the relentless sun, he stood motionless, boots sinking into the shifting ground. He didn't shout or lash out. The storm inside was locked tight, reduced to slow, deliberate breaths, each exhale a refusal to break. The letter's weight burned in his pocket, a tangible reminder of the life unraveling 7,000 miles away. Back in the tent, he grabbed his laptop, the screen's glow harsh against the dimness, and checked the bank account. The balance confirmed the letter's truth, $212.37. Their savings, years of discipline, of missed holidays and sleepless nights, were gone, stolen by the woman he'd vowed to protect. Deep within, Ryan felt a void. Not just financial but existential. The money was a symbol of the years he'd poured into their marriage, the sacrifices he'd made in Iraq's dust-choked streets, the homecomings where Jessica's smile was his salvation. Had he failed her by being absent, by choosing the army over her comfort? The question gnawed, a splinter in his soul. Then his father's words surfaced. "You're not responsible for others' choices." The pain lingered, a dull ache, but it didn't paralyze him. It was fuel, sharpening his focus, urging him to act rather than wallow. He thought of his mother, her courage in her final days, and vowed not to let Jessica's betrayal erase what he'd built. That night, Ryan sat on his bunk, the tense canvas walls rustling in the desert wind. He reread the letter, Jessica's handwriting, once a source of warmth, her notes tucked into his deployment bags, now a blade twisting in his gut. He recalled the signs, her locked phone, late nights working at the dental office, a new dress she never wore for him, its silk shimmering in the closet like a secret. He wasn't shocked, but her cruelty, delivering the letter to the base, forcing him to face betrayal publicly, carved a deeper wound. It was as if she'd calculated the moment to maximize his shame, to strip him bare in a place where strength was currency. Ryan's mind drifted to his early days with Jessica, a memory flickering like a dying ember. They'd danced under Spokane streetlights, her laughter bright, her promises of forever binding him. Had those moments been real, or was he a fool, seeing love where there was only convenience? The doubt stung, but he pushed it aside. He couldn't afford to linger in the past. The letter wasn't just a divorce notice, it was a declaration of war, and Ryan was no stranger to battle. He'd survived worse than this, and he'd survive her. Noah Carter, his bunkmate, noticed the shift. A wiry man with a quick mind, Noah had been with Ryan through Kandahar's worst, their bond forged in shared danger. "You okay, man?" he asked, eyes lifting from his paperback, his voice cutting through the tense quiet. "Fine. Just home stuff," Ryan said, his voice steady despite the turmoil, the lie practiced. Noah nodded, respecting the unspoken boundary. Soldiers knew when to leave pain alone, when silence was a man's only shield. Ryan grabbed his phone, its screen cracked from a recent patrol, and jotted a list. Check accounts. Call Lucas. Review house documents. He didn't write back to Jessica, didn't call, didn't beg for answers. He sent a single text to Lucas Parker, a former Army buddy now a lawyer, whose sharp mind Ryan trusted. Need legal help. Urgent. Discreet. In the darkness, the tense shadows danced across the canvas. Ryan thought of their Spokane home, the kitchen he'd remodeled with his own hands, the backyard where their dog chased squirrels, the life he'd built brick by brick. And Tyler, an intruder defiling that sacred space. The pain didn't crush Ryan, it honed him, like a soldier preparing for a mission, his mind already mapping the fight ahead. 2 weeks after the letter, Ryan sat in the mess hall, the clatter of trays and voices a distant hum against the weight of his thoughts. The Kandahar base was a maze of tents and concrete, the air thick with diesel and dust, a world where routine masked the ever-present threat of chaos. His phone buzzed with a bank alert, the screen's glow stark in the dim light. Jessica had withdrawn another $8,500, leaving the joint account at $212.37. Their $47,000 savings, painstakingly built through years of sacrifice, had vanished, siphoned to an unknown account. Ryan set his fork down, fingers tightening around the phone, the plastic creaking under his grip. The mess hall's noise, soldiers joking, a radio crackling with static, faded, his focus narrowing to the betrayal pulsing in his hand. He stepped into the base's communication center, a cramped room smelling of sweat and electronics, and dialed the bank. The clerk's voice was detached, clinical. Jessica began transferring money the day Ryan deployed, starting with small sums, then escalating to thousands. "She has legal access," the clerk said, as if that justified the theft. Ryan hung up, standing motionless in the hallway, the laughter of teammates calling their families a cruel contrast to his isolation. The confirmation hit like a second blow, but Ryan's mind was already shifting, analyzing. The money wasn't just numbers, it was his future, their future, the stability he'd promised Jessica when they married. He thought of the nights he'd worked extra shifts, the deployments he'd endured to build that nest egg. Had she planned this from the start, or was she swept up by Tyler's charm? The uncertainty gnawed, but Ryan pushed it aside. Questions were distractions, answers lay in evidence. He remembered his father's workshop, tools laid out with precision, each job approached with care. This was his job now, and he'd do it right. That night, under the dim glow of his laptop, the tense canvas walls rustling like whispers, he accessed the home security system, cameras he'd installed during a leave, which Jessica likely forgot he could monitor from anywhere. The footage loaded, grainy but clear. A battered pickup truck, parked in their driveway, its rust stark against the house's white siding. A man he didn't recognize walked their dog, a golden retriever named Max, the animal's tail wagging as if nothing had changed. The man wore Ryan's Seahawks sweatshirt, the one Jessica had bought him for Christmas, and sipped from Ryan's coffee mug, a chipped ceramic relic from his first deployment. Jessica stood in the kitchen, laughing, her ease of betrayal as sharp as the letter. Ryan reread her note about Tyler, the words mocking. "Tyler's staying at the house with me." She wrote as if Tyler belonged there, not as a guest but as a usurper, claiming Ryan's life. He stared at the screen, his chest tightening, the air in the tent suddenly thin. That house wasn't just property, it was his vow to Jessica, a sanctuary he'd built for their future, a place to rest after the Army's relentless toll. Seeing Tyler in his space was a violation that cut to his marrow. Memories surged, Jessica cooking Sunday dinners, her off-key humming filling the kitchen, the way her eyes sparkled when he returned from Iraq. Now those eyes belonged to another. He wanted to hurl the laptop across the tent, to let the anger explode, but he inhaled slowly, his training anchoring him. "She doesn't get to break you," he whispered, turning pain into purpose, his fingers steady as he saved the footage. The footage was more than evidence. It was a mirror, reflecting the depth of Jessica's betrayal. Ryan thought of their first year in the house, painting the walls together, her laughter as paint splattered her hair. Had those moments been real, or was he a means to an end, a soldier whose absences made him expendable? The question lingered, a ghost in his mind, but he couldn't dwell. His mother's voice echoed, "Protect what's yours, no matter the cost." He wouldn't let Jessica erase his past, his home, his dignity. The cameras were his eyes, and they saw everything. The pain burned, but Ryan refused to let it consume him. He saved the video and emailed Lucas Parker, "Need legal help, urgent, discreet." Lucas replied within minutes, his tone urgent, "Call me, secure line only." The call with Lucas peeled back layers of deceit, the video feed crackling over Kandahar's patchy network. Jessica hadn't just stolen money. She'd attempted to refinance the house, forging Ryan's signature to extract $30,000 from its equity. The forged signature was meticulous but flawed. The middle initial was incorrect, the strokes slightly off, betraying the hand of an amateur. More damning, Tyler Grant was listed as a co-applicant, his name a red flag. Lucas had dug into Tyler's past, uncovering a criminal record, 2 DUIs and a 2019 fraud charge, a pattern of deceit that painted him as more than a opportunistic boyfriend. "She's planning to sell the house, isn't she?" Ryan asked, his voice low, edged with a quiet fury. Lucas nodded through the video call, his face grim under the fluorescent light of his office. "All signs point to it, and Tyler's not working alone." Lucas introduced Evan Walsh, a real estate agent with a slick reputation, who'd partnered with Tyler on predatory sales of homes owned by deployed soldiers' spouses. Always below market value, their profits split in shadowy deals. Each revelation was a fresh wound, but Ryan's mind was a fortress, processing the betrayal with clinical precision. He thought of his father, who'd taught him to face problems like a puzzle, each piece fitting into a larger truth. Jessica's actions weren't just personal, they were calculated, a betrayal not just of him, but of the life they'd sworn to build. He remembered a night years ago, Jessica curled against him, promising to wait through every deployment. Was that a lie, or had she changed, seduced by Tyler's whispers? The distinction mattered less than the reality. She'd chosen to destroy him, and he'd chosen to fight back. Each discovery deepened the cut. Ryan recalled his father's maxim, "Don't let emotions cloud the truth." He thought back to a prior deployment, 2 years earlier, when Jessica had pushed to sell the house for a simpler life. He dismissed it, citing their stable mortgage, but she kept circling back to the idea, her insistence now revealed as a prelude to this scheme. Her silence after his refusal had been a mask, hiding her plans. Noah Carter, who'd pulled Ryan from a firefight in Kandahar's narrow alleys, sensed his tension. Noah was lean, with a quick wit and a scar across his knuckles from a bar fight he never discussed. "What's going on, brother?" he asked, his tone direct, eyes meeting Ryan's across the tent. Ryan, rarely one to share, felt the weight of Noah's loyalty, a bond forged in shared survival. "My wife drained our accounts, moved her boyfriend in, sent a divorce letter here, like she wanted the whole base to see me fall," he said, the words bitter but controlled. Noah didn't offer empty sympathy. "What's the plan?" he asked, his voice steady, a soldier ready to follow. "Not sure yet, but I'm not letting her win," Ryan replied, his jaw tight, a fire kindling in his chest. Noah nodded, sliding a business card across the bunk, the edges worn from his wallet. "Call this if you need it. FBI contact, specializes in financial crimes, name's Patel." Ryan pocketed the card, a flicker of gratitude warming the cold resolve within. Noah's gesture was a lifeline, a reminder of the brotherhood that had carried Ryan through war. He thought of their nights in Kandahar, sharing stories of home, Noah's tales of his sister's baking making Ryan laugh until his sides ached. That loyalty, unasked but given, was a contrast to Jessica's betrayal, a spark of light in the dark. Ryan vowed to repay it, not with words but with action. Ryan remembered his mother's final words, whispered in her hospital bed, "Never let anyone take what you've built." That promise glowed like a beacon, guiding him through the fog of betrayal. He thought of her hands, frail but steady, holding his as she spoke. She'd faced death with courage, and he'd face this with the same. Jessica's letter wasn't just a personal attack. It was an assault on the legacy his parents had entrusted to him, the home he'd built as a monument to their lessons. He wouldn't let it fall, not to her, not to Tyler, not to anyone. Ryan checked further, his military pension accounts, the VA loan terms, the house deed. He found Jessica had inquired about refinancing a year earlier. When he refused, citing their financial stability, she dropped the subject. Her silence now revealed as calculation, but she didn't know he'd anticipated trouble. Key documents, birth certificate, marriage license, deeds, were locked in a storage unit across Spokane, a precaution taken after a vague unease during her simpler life talks. A separate bank account, seeded with small deposits over months, remained untouched, a lifeline she couldn't reach. As he closed his laptop, Ryan felt a shift. The betrayal was a wound, but it was also a map, each piece of evidence a marker leading to justice. He thought of his grandfather's watch, safe in storage, its ticking a reminder of time's relentless march. Jessica had tried to steal his past, his present, his future, but she'd underestimated him. He wasn't just a soldier, he was a survivor, and survivors don't surrender. The fight was just beginning, and Ryan was ready. Ryan didn't crave revenge through violence or venom. He sought justice, the kind that ensnares the guilty in their own webs, leaving them no escape. He planned with the precision of a military operation, each move calculated, each contingency mapped, his mind a battlefield where emotion bowed to strategy. In Kandahar's relentless nights, Ryan sat alone, the laptop's faint glow casting shadows on his face, the tense canvas walls a cocoon of isolation. He thought of 13 years with Jessica, their first dance at a Spokane bar, her laughter echoing through snowy winters, the quiet nights when she'd read beside him, her warmth a shield against the world. Those memories, once anchors, now felt like ghosts, haunting him with what might have been. Part of him grieved. Could he have listened more, been present more, bridged the gap widened by deployments? But her letter, its cold ink, severed those ties, each word a nail in the coffin of their love. The pain didn't fade. It hardened, becoming a blade as sharp as the one he carried in combat. She thinks I'll fold, he told himself, jaw clenched, eyes burning with resolve. But I don't run from fights. He wrote an action list, each line a step to reclaim his life, not for vengeance, but for a vow to himself. No one steals what he'd fought to build. The soldier in him stirred, ready to wage this new war, his heart a forge where pain became purpose. Ryan's mind drifted to his parents, their lessons a compass in this storm. His father's steady hands, fixing engines late into the night, taught him to face problems with patience, to dismantle chaos piece by piece. His mother's courage, smiling through pain, showed him that strength wasn't loud, it was enduring. He wondered what they'd think of him now, a man fighting not just for a house, but for the principles they'd instilled. The weight of their memory steadied him, a reminder that this battle was about more than money or pride. It was about honoring the man they'd raised, the man he'd become. He saw his mother's face, her eyes fierce with love, and felt her voice urging him forward. You're stronger than this, keep going. He began with Lucas Parker, his old army buddy turned lawyer, a man whose sharp mind and dogged loyalty Ryan trusted implicitly. They connected via a secure video call, the connection crackling over Kandahar's spotty network, Lucas's face illuminated by the sterile light of his Spokane office. Ryan laid out the evidence, forged documents, bank transfers, security footage, each piece a brick in the case he was building. Lucas leaned forward, eyes narrowing, his pen tapping the desk. We need ironclad proof. Jessica and Tyler are acting like you're gone for good, like you won't fight back. Ryan pulled out the letter, its creases worn from handling, the paper stained with desert dust. She sent this to the base, wanted me humiliated before my team, but she doesn't know I've been preparing. Lucas smirked, a glint of admiration in his eyes. She's betting on you breaking. That's her fatal error. Lucas's confidence was a lifeline, a reminder of the bonds forged in the army. Ryan remembered their early days, training in Fort Bragg, Lucas's quick wit cutting through the tension of long marches. They'd shared beers after missions, swapped stories of home, Lucas's tales of his daughter's soccer games, a bright spot in dark times. Now Lucas was more than a friend. He was a partner in this fight, his legal mind as sharp as Ryan's tactical instincts. Ryan felt a surge of gratitude, a rare warmth in the cold calculus of his plan. Ryan tasked Lucas with probing Tyler and Evan's financial records, searching for patterns that could unravel their scheme. Lucas nodded, already jotting notes. I'll dig into their bank accounts, property deals, anything that smells off. If they're running a racket, there'll be a trail," Ryan added. "Check Tyler's past with Jessica's office. I got him that job 2 years ago." Lucas raised an eyebrow. "You helped him, and now he's in your house? That's cold." Ryan's jaw tightened, but he said nothing, the betrayal a wound too fresh to probe. Ryan monitored the home cameras nightly, the grainy feed his only window into Spokane 7,000 miles away. The house looked unchanged, white siding, blue shutters, Max's toys scattered in the yard. But it felt like enemy territory. One night, he caught Evan Walsh at the house, a camera slung around his neck, snapping photos of the living room, the dining area, the fireplace Ryan had rebuilt during a leave. Tyler gestured at the hardwood floors, the crown molding, his voice clear through the camera's audio. "We'll list it fast, before her husband gets back. Cash buyers ready." Ryan saved the footage, his pulse steady, his fingers precise as he sent it to Lucas. The footage revealed a bitter truth. Tyler had worked at Jessica's dental office 2 years earlier, a job Ryan had helped him secure through a mutual contact, a favor for Jessica's colleague. Ryan remembered Tyler's handshake at a staff party, his easy grin, his thanks for the opportunity. The memory stung, a betrayal layered atop betrayal. Had Tyler been scheming even then, eyeing Jessica as a mark, or was he an opportunist who saw her discontent as a door? Ryan's mind wrestled with the question, but he pushed it aside. Regret was a distraction, a luxury he couldn't afford. He focused on the mission, his thoughts mapping each move like a chessboard, anticipating Tyler's next play, Evan's, even Jessica's. This wasn't just about them. It was about proving he could rise above their deceit, that he was more than the sum of their lies. Lucas's research uncovered a broader conspiracy. Evan and Tyler had sold 3 homes belonging to deployed soldiers' spouses, all undervalued, with Tyler pocketing a percentage through shell accounts. "This isn't just your divorce, Ryan. It's a criminal enterprise," Lucas said, his voice tight with urgency, his fingers drumming on his desk. Ryan contacted Agent Patel, Noah's FBI contact, a woman with a reputation for dismantling financial scams. Over a crackling line, Patel's voice was brisk, professional. "We've been tracking Walsh for months, but we need hard evidence to move. Your footage could be it." Ryan became their linchpin, his evidence the key to unlocking the case. He shared the camera footage, forged refinance papers, and detailed bank transfer logs, each file a nail in Tyler and Evan's coffin. Patel's tone sharpened, a hunter sensing prey. "Let them keep moving. We'll catch them red-handed, but we need them to act first." Ryan agreed, his voice calm, but he was already crafting a parallel strategy, one that ensured no loose ends, no chance for Jessica or her accomplices to slip through. As he hung up, Ryan felt the weight of his role, not just a victim, but a catalyst. He thought of his teammates, their families, the soldiers who'd trusted their homes were safe while they fought abroad. If he faltered, others would fall to the same scheme. The responsibility was a fire, burning away doubt, fueling his resolve. He saw his father's face, nodding approval, and heard his mother's voice. "You're doing what's right." This wasn't just his fight, it was theirs, a stand for every soldier betrayed by those they loved. He flew to Spokane earlier than planned, without alerting Jessica, the plane's hum a backdrop to his racing thoughts. He checked into a nondescript motel under an alias, the room smelling of stale coffee and bleach, its anonymity a shield. Spokane felt alien now, its familiar streets, the coffee shop where he and Jessica once shared pastries, the park where they'd walked Max, tainted by her betrayal. He met Lucas at a quiet diner 10 miles outside town, a place of chipped mugs and tired waitresses, where no one asked questions. Lucas slid a thick folder across the table, fraudulent contracts, transfer records, and a detailed profile on Evan Walsh, whose real estate deals reeked of greed. "They're listing your house this week," Lucas warned, his eyes scanning Ryan for a reaction. Ryan's face remained stone, but inside, he calculated, his mind a machine honing in on the target. The diner's fluorescent lights buzzed, and Ryan felt the gravity of the moment. This wasn't just about saving his house. It was about dismantling a machine that preyed on soldiers like him, men who trusted their homes were safe while they faced bullets abroad. He thought of his teammates, their wives, their kids, the unspoken pact that bound them. If he failed, others would suffer, their lives upended by the same greed. The responsibility grounded him, turning personal pain into a broader purpose. He nodded at Lucas, a silent vow to see this through. not just for himself but for those who'd never know his name. Ryan visited the bank, meeting the loan officer who'd processed the refinance. A nervous woman with glasses perched on her nose. He presented his military ID, his authentic signature, and the forged documents, laying them out like evidence in a court-martial. The officer's face drained of color, her hands trembling as she scanned the papers. "I'll report this immediately," she stammered. "I've already filed a fraud report with the police," Ryan said, his voice calm, unyielding, a soldier delivering an order, his presence commanding despite the civilian clothes. He went to the county clerk's office, a bureaucratic maze of fluorescent lights and paper stacks, filing paperwork to contest the refinance and freeze any changes to the property's title. The clerk, an older man with a slow drawl, processed the forms with a nod, unaware of the war Ryan was waging. Jessica, sensing the walls closing in, texted, "Who's been talking to the bank?" "Tyler says someone's asking about the house." Ryan left her messages unanswered, each ignored text a small victory, a crack in her carefully laid plans. A twist emerged from Noah, who called from the base, his voice cutting through the static. "Found someone at your wife's dental office. She knows Tyler's been stealing prescription pads and wants to testify." Megan Foster, a quiet receptionist with a nervous smile, had been intimidated by Tyler but agreed to help because Ryan had once intervened when a patient harassed her at the office, his quiet authority diffusing the situation. Megan provided evidence of Tyler's theft, prescription pads found in his desk, some already forged, adding another charge to his growing list. Ryan felt a surge of gratitude for Megan, a reminder that not all trust was misplaced. He remembered that day at the office, the patient's raised voice, Megan's frightened eyes. He'd stepped in without thinking, a reflex born of duty. Now, her courage was a ripple, returning to aid him in this fight. It was a rare moment of warmth in a cold war, a sign that his instincts to do right hadn't been in vain. He added Megan's evidence to his arsenal, his plan growing tighter, more lethal, each piece locking into place like a rifle being assembled. Ryan set the final trap with surgical precision. He texted Jessica, feigning agreement to meet at Riverfront Park, the city's green heart where they'd once picnicked. When she left the house, her car disappearing down the street, Evan and Tyler arrived, assuming the coast was clear to photograph the property for listing. From a parked car down the block, hidden behind tinted windows, Ryan activated the cameras, their lenses capturing every word of their scheme to sell the house fraudulently. Tyler's voice was smug, listed at $470, take $420 cash, everyone's happy. Evan nodded, snapping photos. Ryan sent the footage to Patel, his fingers steady, his mind clear, the trap sprung. As he hit send, Ryan felt a quiet thrill, not of vengeance but of control. He'd turned their arrogance against them, their greed a noose they'd tied themselves. He thought of his grandfather's watch, its steady tick a metronome of justice. Jessica, Tyler, Evan, they'd underestimated him, seeing a soldier too far away to fight. But distance was his ally, his silence his weapon. He leaned back in the car, the weight of the moment settling, a soldier awaiting the enemy's fall. The tension was a living thing, coiling tighter with each passing minute, but Ryan remained a statue, his breathing even, his focus absolute. The decisive strike was imminent, and he was ready. 30 minutes after Ryan sent the footage, FBI vehicles descended on the Spokane house like a storm, their black SUVs blocking the street, lights flashing in the summer dusk. Ryan and Lucas watched from a car parked a block away, the air thick with anticipation, the scent of cut grass mingling with exhaust. Agents in dark vests swarmed the property, their radios crackling with commands. Evan Walsh and Tyler Grant emerged, hands cuffed, faces pale, their confidence shattered as they were led to waiting vans. Jessica pulled into the driveway, stepping out to a scene of chaos, her face a mask of shock. She stood frozen on the lawn, hands covering her mouth, eyes darting as FBI agents carried out boxes of documents, laptops, and files from the home Ryan had built with his own hands. Ryan watched from the car, his heart a steady drum, but his mind churned. Jessica's panic was real, but was it guilt or fear of being caught? He thought of their first night in the house, her excitement as they unpacked, her dreams of a garden in the backyard. That woman was gone, replaced by this stranger, her choices a wall between them. Yet seeing her unravel, he felt no triumph, only a hollow certainty. This was justice, not joy, a necessary end to a war she'd started. He glanced at Lucas, whose nod was a silent acknowledgement. They'd done what was right. Patel called Ryan, her voice crisp over the line, cutting through the hum of the car's engine. We've got them on tape discussing the fraud, the fake sale, plus conspiracy, wire fraud, and property theft. It's a slam dunk thanks to you. Ryan nodded, his tone even, betraying none of the storm within. Thank you. What about my wife? Patel paused, her words measured. She's claiming ignorance, says Tyler manipulated her. We're digging deeper, but her role's unclear. She's not off the hook. Ryan met the FBI at their Spokane field office, a squat building with tinted windows, its interior a maze of cubicles and coffee-stained carpets. He sat across from Patel and Agent Donovan, a wiry man with a no-nonsense demeanor, his tie loosened from a long day. The room smelled of ink and bureaucracy, the table strewn with Ryan's evidence, camera footage, forged refinance papers, bank transfer logs, Megan's prescription pad records. Patel leaned forward, her pen tapping the table, her dark eyes sharp. Your case is the keystone, Mitchell. It establishes a pattern. Tyler and Evan hit 11 other military families, exploiting deployed soldiers' spouses. Without your footage, your documents, we'd still be chasing shadows. You've given us a map to dismantle their operation. Patel's words landed heavily, and Ryan's mind drifted to those families, men like him, trusting their homes were safe while they dodged bullets in far-off lands. He thought of Alvarez, whose wife was expecting their first child, of Noah, who sent half his pay to his sister's college fund. The weight of their unseen struggles pressed on him, a reminder that his fight had grown beyond personal loss. He saw his father's face, nodding approval from a workshop long gone, and heard his mother's voice, do what's right, no matter the cost. This was his version of their legacy, not just saving himself, but shielding others from the same betrayal. The thought steadied him, grounding his resolve in something larger than anger, a purpose that transcended the pain of Jessica's letter. Donovan added, his voice gruff, we found more in the house, burner phones, fake IDs, contracts linking Walsh to offshore accounts. Your cameras caught them planning the sale, word for word. It's enough for federal charges, maybe RICO if we can tie the rest. Ryan nodded, absorbing the scope of the scheme. What happens next? He asked. Patel's eyes softened slightly, a rare crack in her professional armor. We build the case, go to trial. Tyler and Walsh are looking at serious time. As for Jessica, we need your input. If she's complicit, she faces charges. If not, she might walk, but she's not clean yet. The mention of Jessica stirred a flicker of conflict in Ryan. He thought of their wedding, her white dress glowing under the Spokane sun, her vows whispered with conviction. Had she meant them, or was he a means to an end, a soldier whose absences made him expendable? The question lingered, but he pushed it aside. His fight wasn't about her heart, it was about her actions, the choices that had hurt not just him but others. He thought of the Fort Worth family Patel had mentioned, their home nearly lost. His pain was personal, but his response was universal, a stand for those who couldn't fight back. He met Patel's gaze, his voice firm. Do what you need to. I want what's fair. Jessica's texts flooded his phone, each one more desperate. Ryan, please call me. The bank's talking about fraud. Tyler's arrested. I don't understand what's happening. Ryan replied with surgical precision, his words a mirror of her coldness. Who's Evan Walsh? $14,600 transferred? House listing? Her response was frantic, almost incoherent. It's not what you think. Please, let's talk. He powered off his phone, her words hollow against the mountain of evidence he'd amassed. Lucas arranged a legal confrontation at a downtown law office, a sterile room with a long mahogany table and windows overlooking Spokane's skyline. Ryan sat across from Jessica, Lucas at his side, a notary observing with a neutral gaze. Jessica looked diminished, her face drawn, eyes red from crying, her blonde hair pulled back in a messy bun. She wore a simple blouse, her hands twisting a tissue, the vibrant woman Ryan had married reduced to a shadow. I didn't know what Tyler was doing, she said, her voice trembling, breaking on every other word. He told me you were hiding money, planning to leave me with nothing. I was scared, Ryan. I thought I was protecting myself. Ryan fixed his gaze on her, his voice steady but laced with a quiet fury. You sent that letter to Kandahar, knowing it'd reach me in front of my team. You wanted me shamed, Jessica. You forged my signature. You let him into my house, my life. You tried to sell what I built with my own hands, piece by piece. In that moment, a silent war raged within Ryan. Part of him ached to forgive, for the years they'd loved, for the nights she'd waited up for him, for the woman who'd once been his home. He saw her in their early days, laughing as they painted the house, her hair flecked with white primer, But the letters ink, Tyler's smirk in the security footage, and the stories of other betrayed families loomed large. Forgiveness wasn't absolution, it was freedom for himself, not her. He saw Jessica clearly now, not as his wife but as a stranger who'd chosen her path. Justice isn't about hate, he thought. It's about making things right, for me and those who come after. His resolve hardened, a wall no plea could breach. He thought of his mother, her dying wish to protect what he'd built, and knew this was the only way. Jessica's head dropped, her hands trembling as tears soaked the tissue. "I was wrong," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I didn't know about the bigger scheme, I swear. Tyler said it was just about us, about starting over. I didn't mean for it to go this far." Ryan stood firm, his face unyielding, the soldier in him unswayed by her tears. He presented a settlement. Jessica would repay the stolen $47,000, relinquish all claims to the house and his military pension, and sign a confession admitting the forgery. In exchange, he wouldn't press criminal charges, sparing her a trial but not the consequences. She hesitated, her eyes searching his for a trace of the man who'd loved her, but found only resolve. She signed, her pen shaking against the paper, the notary's stamp sealing her fate. As Jessica signed, Ryan felt a strange detachment, as if watching himself from above. The woman before him was a ghost of the Jessica he'd known. Her betrayal a bridge burned beyond repair. He thought of his father's workshop, the smell of oil and metal, the lessons of fixing what was broken. Some things couldn't be fixed, only left behind. This settlement wasn't victory, it was closure, a line drawn to end one chapter and begin another. He felt no joy, only the quiet certainty of a mission completed, a battle won not with fists but with truth. He glanced at Lucas, whose nod was a silent salute, a recognition of the fight they'd waged together. The FBI announced the case months later, a press release detailing the takedown of a fraud ring that had preyed on military families across 3 states. Tyler Grant received an 8-year sentence for fraud, conspiracy, and identity theft, his prescription pad theft adding time to his term. Evan Walsh got 12 years, his real estate license revoked, his empire of deceit reduced to ash. The case became a landmark, enabling 11 other military families to pursue restitution, their homes and savings partially restored. Ryan, though the linchpin, stayed out of the spotlight, his name absent from the headlines. He didn't need recognition, the outcome was enough, a testament to his silent strength. Walking out of the law office, Ryan stepped into Spokane's crisp air, the city both familiar and foreign, its streets lined with memories he no longer claimed. He thought of his teammates, their trust in him, and the families he'd unknowingly helped. The weight of the past year pressed on him, but so did a flicker of pride, not in defeating Jessica, but in standing firm, in honoring his parents' lessons, his own code. For the first time in months, he felt the stirrings of something like hope, a faint promise of a life rebuilt on his terms. He thought of his grandfather's watch, safe in storage, its ticking a reminder that time moved forward, and so would he. Ryan drove past the house one last time, its blue shutters faded, the for sale sign a marker of closure. He didn't stop, didn't look back. The house was a shell, its heart gone, but he carried its lessons forward. He thought of Noah, still in Kandahar, and made a mental note to call, to thank him for the card that changed everything. The road stretched ahead, leading to Montana, to a new beginning. He pressed the gas, the city shrinking in his rear view, his future unwritten but his own. A year after the divorce was finalized, Ryan sold the Spokane house, its sale a quiet transaction handled by a realtor he barely knew. The walls, once alive with dreams, now echoed with betrayal, their paint chipped, their memories tainted. The proceeds were modest but enough to start anew. He bought a small cabin outside Missoula, Montana, 2 bedrooms, 10 acres of rolling land, a creek murmuring behind it like a soft promise. He retired early from the army after 20 years, the weight of service giving way to a hunger for solitude, for a life unburdened by the past. The cabin was simple, its cedar walls weathered but sturdy, its porch overlooking fields that stretched to the horizon. Ryan adopted Scout, a German shepherd with keen eyes and a loyal heart, whose presence filled the quiet spaces. He began carpentry for locals, crafting tables, cabinets, and bookshelves in a small workshop beside the cabin, the smell of sawdust and varnish a grounding force. The work was tactile, honest, a balm for hands too long accustomed to rifles and radios. His military pension ensured he lived comfortably, free from financial strain, his needs as spare as the land around him. In Montana's vast quiet, Ryan found a fragile peace, a stillness that soothed the scars of the past year. Mornings, with fog draping the fields and Scout bounding at his side, brought a freedom he hadn't known, not from outsmarting Jessica, but from releasing her hold on his soul. He still dreamed of her sometimes, not with anger, but as a shadow from a life left behind, her face blurred by time. He wondered if he could have saved their marriage, spoken more, stayed home more, seen the cracks before they widened, but he knew he'd given all he could. Those early days, dancing under Spokane's streetlights, were real, but they belonged to another man, another time. Now he lived for himself, not to prove anything to anyone. Each piece of wood he carved, each sunrise he witnessed, was a quiet declaration. He was still here, unbroken. The cabin, the creek, Scout, they were his, earned through pain but untouched by betrayal. Ryan's mind often wandered to his parents, their faces vivid in the Montana dusk. His father's steady voice, guiding him through boyhood, his mother's gentle resolve, shining through her illness. They'd carried him through the darkest days. He wondered if they'd be proud, not of his victory, but of his refusal to let betrayal define him. He saw his father's workshop, smelled the oil and metal, felt his mother's hand on his as she spoke her final words. Their lessons were his foundation, rebuilt stronger after Jessica's storm. The thought warmed him, a quiet comfort in the solitude, a reminder that he carried them with him, always. He thought of Jessica less and less, her name a faint echo, stripped of power. Lucas, who'd stayed in touch, mentioned she'd moved to Oregon, working at another dental office, piecing together a new life in a small town. Ryan felt no bitterness, no lingering hate. The emotions had dulled, like a scar smoothed by time, its ache a memory rather than a wound. He didn't wish her ill, he didn't wish her anything. She was a chapter closed, a lesson learned, her choices no longer his burden. One evening, as the Montana sky blazed orange, Ryan sat on his porch, Scout's head resting on his knee, the dog's warmth a steady anchor. He thought of the base in Kandahar, the letter's weight in his pocket, the moment he'd chosen to fight. That Ryan felt distant now, a man forged in pain but not defined by it. He thought of Noah, still deployed, and vowed to send a letter to thank him for the card that sparked this journey. The brotherhood of the army, the trust of men like Noah and Lucas, was a light that Jessica's betrayal couldn't dim. He sipped his coffee, the creek's murmur a soft hymn, and felt the stirrings of contentment, not loud but deep. A letter arrived one day, its envelope worn from travel, postmarked Fort Worth. It was from a woman whose Navy husband had been targeted by Tyler and Evan during a deployment. "You don't know me," she wrote in neat cursive, "but you saved our home. Your fight gave us a chance to rebuild, to keep our family whole. Thank you for not giving up." Ryan read it twice, the words sinking deep, a quiet validation of his struggle. He pinned it to his fridge, beside Jessica's old letter, now a faded relic stripped of its sting. The Fort Worth letter was a beacon, a reminder that his battle had rippled beyond himself, touching lives he'd never meet, families who'd never know his name but felt his impact. Holding the letter, Ryan felt a shift, a softening of the jagged edges left by Jessica's betrayal. The pain, once a constant companion, had transformed into something else, a strength born of endurance, a pride in doing right. He thought of his teammates, their families, the unspoken bonds of service that tied them. He hadn't fought for glory but for principle, a truth his parents had etched into him. The letter was proof that even in silence his actions had spoken, resonating across lives and miles. He set it down, a quiet pride settling in his chest, not loud but enduring, a fire that warmed without burning. Ryan recalled his father's words, spoken over a workbench cluttered with tools. Do what's right, even if no one sees. They'd guided him through the abyss, a lifeline when Jessica's letter threatened to pull him under. Jessica had texted once, months after the settlement, her words tentative. "I didn't want it to end like this." He hadn't replied, the silence his final answer. There was nothing left to say, no words to bridge the chasm she'd carved with her choices. In the stillness of Montana, Ryan found peace in small moments, the fog over the fields at dawn, Scout's bark echoing through the pines, the weight of a hammer in his hand, as he shaped wood into something lasting. He thought of the Fort Worth woman, her gratitude a mirror to his own journey. He'd rebuilt not just a life but a self, stronger for the breaking. He remembered a night in Kandahar, staring at the stars, wondering if he'd ever feel whole again. Now, with Scout at his side and the creek's song in his ears, he knew he was. The past was a shadow, but the future was his. carved with his own hands. Ryan didn't need revenge or acclaim. He needed a life that was his, impervious to theft or deceit, a sanctuary built on the ashes of betrayal. As he watched the creek glint under the morning sun, Scout chasing a squirrel through the grass, Ryan felt the past recede. Not gone, but no longer a chain. He was building something new, not just a cabin or a trade, but a self unbound by others' choices. The man who'd read that letter in Kandahar was gone. In his place stood someone stronger, shaped by loss but defined by resilience. He patted Scout, the dog's warmth grounding him, and stepped into the day, ready for whatever came next, his heart steady, his path clear. Not everyone who stays silent is weak. Sometimes, they're rewriting the script others thought was finished.